everybody. Welcome to Impossible Coin. My name is Tegan Somerset, your fabulous host for today. Joining me somewhere in West Texas is Rocky Hardy.
Hey, howdy, how you doing?
Hey, and Brian's not here today, right?
No, he's not here.
Is he wrestling an invisible man? Is that what's up?
I think he's watching two invisible men wrestle, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow. We'll have to cover that on the Patreon content. I'm sure it'll be there.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt in my mind.
So, do we have someone instead of podcast dad, Mr. Brian Cartwright?
Oh, yeah. We have a sit-in. We're going to pick his brain a little bit about his studio and the game that they're working on. Rob Cravens of Skymill Studios. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing, that's for sure.
Fair enough. I mean, there is a global pandemic going on, but I'm low-key thriving. I didn't want to brag, but that's what's going on with me.
There you go. Good stuff.
So, Rob, just a quick background. Your studio, Skymill Studios. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So we're a small indie game studio based out of Columbus, Ohio. We're currently in development on a game called Kindred Fates. It's our first game as a studio, but not our first game that we've worked on separately. It's a open world monster battling RPG. So you can kind of think about it like Pokemon meets Breath of the Wild. And that's what we sort of built it to feel like in a lot of ways. But we also do a lot of our own things with it and put our own spin on the genre.
For sure. How did this project come together?
Sure. So it actually started with brother and I. We were working on Unity games and mostly doing things in 2D. We wanted to get into 3D more, and we started creating small test projects to kind of learn more about 3D and see if we could create one of the 3D games that we had in mind. There were probably, I think, 3 or 4 different games that we were considering at the time. And so Kindred Fates really started as like an exercise in learning about that side of Unity. And once we got really comfortable with things, the project sort of grew organically out of just being a, hey, let's throw some cubes in here and watch them run around and, see if we can get cubes to spawn more cubes to, okay, well, we've got like a lot of the fundamental mechanics in here for this monster battle thing. Maybe we should flesh that out a little bit more. Maybe we should talk about what that could really look like.
So I was really impressed by your Kickstarter. It looks like there's a very strong proof of concept there. And one of the things that gave me a little bit of pause, when I was looking into the people that were working on the project, people you listed as your staff, a lot of them were like largely freelance and like part-time people. Is that something that would affect like the pace of your project?
So not really. It's actually been a really great setup so far. And I think it's a really common setup for indie studios to have contractors and freelance artists. And the team that we've been working with is just really awesome. We've all gotten used to working remote on it so far. The game's been in development for just over a year now, really. So that's, I guess, a workflow that we've all just gotten used to.
And it's definitely something that's been a bit more durable given the the current situation.
For sure.
Now, backers that back the project have the next thing to look forward to on their roadmap, which is the Alpha Combat Arena. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I'll have to be a little bit careful with how I talk about it.
Ooh, secrets. We might get secrets.
You might get some secrets. So the gist of it is that it's an online PvP arena. You can battle people online there. We'll have support for 1v1 game modes and a couple maps. You'll have a small roster of monsters to fight with, and you'll be able to build a little bit of a loadout there. For example, you might pick monster A, B, and C, and then, each monster has a move pool of, let's say, 10 moves or so that they can learn. And you have to select, 4 or 5 of those to sort of equip on them or for them to know. And so that's kind of the gist of it.
Okay. I remember when I was looking at it, the combat reminded me a bit of Pokken.
Oh, yeah.
With, like, I guess a bit more of a zoomed out feel. Because, like, you know, Tekken is mostly about strikes and whatnot, but you also want to include things like zoning and, like, terrain play and, like, minions.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pokken was definitely an inspiration for the game, as well as other arena fighters. I guess, like any arena fighter made by Bandai. MOBAs, like League of Legends, Dota, Battle.Right, those were absolutely inspirations.
Mm-hmm.
And then early on, as weird as it sounds, or as like mismatched as it sounds, Dark Souls combat or Bloodborne combat was also a bit of an inspiration. I know that that's also kind of a cliche to say, like, this is the Dark Souls of whatever.
Well, yeah, of course. You get one chance to defend it. Just, like, elaborate on it a little bit.
I guess I would say that there are elements from that style of combat that we liked and we wanted to incorporate. Things like your attacks having commitment and you have to like follow through with them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of get used to, you know, hey, if I get hit by this, it's going to hurt. It's going to deal like half my health and damage or so. So stuff like that was an inspiration as well.
No, I get it. That's actually one of the more rewarding parts of, like, Monster Hunter, when you make the commitment and it pays off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And before we get into the Kickstarter, how can people who missed Kickstarter, because that happened in, I believe, January, ended in February? Do I have that right?
Yep. Ended February 28th. So we're actually coming up on the, like, 1 month anniversary
of the Kickstarter. So
yeah.
Let's say someone who's just hearing of Kindred Fates and they fall in love with it the way that so many people have. How can they support the project?
Sure. So I would say the best way would be, you know, grab a digital copy of the game from our website. You can pre-order those from our site. We've got a couple different packages. Apart from that, we have a really, really active Discord community. Just a bunch of great folks there. And we interact with the Discord very frequently. We take the suggestions that we see in there really seriously. We frequently do contests for things that can end up in the game. We really love the stuff that our community puts out and have already incorporated like several of the suggestions and ideas that we've gotten from the community from that Discord into the game. So it's not just like suggestion box that leads to a shredder.
Right. No, actually, I think I just saw on the Instagram that you guys were celebrating a fan contest recently.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we just added our second fan-made Kinfolk into the game officially. We had a contest in, I think it was the end of February, just before the end of the Kickstarter, for creating a like feline inspired or cat based Kinfolk. And we had, I want to say, over 300, something like 310, 325 submissions for that across the Discord, Instagram, Twitter, all over the place. It was a ton of fun. And honestly, the competition was really fierce. There were so many good designs. It was incredibly difficult to pick. But we ended up going with a design called Nyazan, and it really embodied what we were looking for.
Oh yeah, it's like a Chinese dragon cat ferret combo. Oh my god, this is adorable.
Yeah, and the artist actually wrote some lore about it too that was really fantastic. We fell in love with it.
I found the image. I'm going to go ahead and put it in our show doc so that our subscribers can get a look at it. But also, I'll link the Instagram in case anyone wants to check it out when it comes out with the show.
These are a lot of great designs. Man, I can see why this was hard to choose.
It was incredibly difficult. Even just narrowing it down to like a top 10 was so hard. There were easily a dozen designs that we would have been okay with adding to the game.
Wow. Man, this is nuts. There's so many good cats. Are you going to be doing another creature contest, or do you think you're only going to do, like, the one?
We've got to use them sparingly. It's not to say that for sure this will be the last one, we've got, a long development road ahead of us, so there's certainly time for doing more. But I think the next contest we're going to do is a music contest.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for that one, too. I don't think the Discord has heard of that yet, so that'll be exciting for them when they do.
Secret.
Got one secret, everyone. Okay, and just to cover all our bases, is there any way into the Alpha Combat Arena at this point?
At this point, your earliest way to get into that is through I believe it's the Champion tier. Yes, it's the Champion package on our website, or if you backed and got the Champion tier. That'll start up in Q3 of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, there's not a way to play the game yet, unless that is if you were one of the people that we had planned on meeting with at GDC, in which case we'll be sending out a demo.
RIP GDC. Well, I mean, they'll be back.
Yeah.
It's just a temporary rip.
Yeah, the delay was not fun to organize around, but it worked out.
Understandable, honestly. The fact that you guys were able to get a workaround, though, so quickly as an indie studio is really impressive, though.
Well, thank you. It was, yeah, it was a lot at once, like having that to manage, and then sort of the end of the Kickstarter with all of the Kickstarter wrap up and fulfillment and those things at the same time. It was just very chaotic, but it ended up working out. And the people that we've been speaking to were incredibly understanding, which is always helpful.
Nice. So, how did everybody react with all the support you guys got on Kickstarter?
Well, man, it was...
Did anybody cry?
Yes, absolutely. I think several of us cried, honestly. We never expected to do that well. I've said that a million times now, but it really holds true. At the very end there, myself, Tori, John, and I believe Andrew as well were all just sort of watching the last couple seconds tick down and watching the Discord and everybody react to it. I will remember that moment for the rest of my life. That was just like nothing else I've ever experienced. It was so cool to see how excited everyone was.
That's awesome. And Tori's your writer, right? Your main writer? And then John and Andrew are co-developers?
Yeah, John is a developer. He also helps us out with some of the business management stuff. And Andrew is one of our community managers, and he is actually one of the founding members. He and I were the two original developers, but since then he's chosen to do more just community management stuff, and I don't blame him.
Gotcha. So was part of you guys like not expecting a ton of support while you set that low initial funding goal?
Partially, yeah. There were a couple, actually there were really a lot of factors that played into why that goal was what it is, or was. The first thing was we didn't know how much support the Kickstarter would actually get, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could kind of make estimations based on things like our follower count on our various social medias, based on how well similar projects had done, things like that. But it's kind of a leap of faith. You don't know. So we tried with that in mind to keep it as low as we possibly could, but still set it at an amount that would allow us to deliver the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first part. There were a lot of like budget things that factor into that. Like, okay, it's going to cost this much to get the art that we need. It's going to cost this much to pay, cover the manufacturing of the plushies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So those were all factors too. The other probably biggest factor is that, and this isn't like a a super fun topic, but it's something that was very important to the community, so we did give an official response to it. And that's that we really care about what people want for this game, and we want to be open and honest with people about the development. So if the Kickstarter reached its goal, we have investors who are willing to provide the remainder of the funding for the game, but that's not something that people generally like to hear because it's really scary. There's a lot of history of investors like controlling developers and so we're not going to be that, and we've made sure of that. We've made promises that we will never implement any pay to win features or have a single player game with microtransactions, add artificial grind that can be skipped with paid items, add day one DLC, or charge you for subscription fees for features that should just come with the damn game, or place core features behind a paywall. We don't want to do any of that stuff.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love hearing that. Love it.
Yeah. Basically, we know that building the game at the level of quality that people expect will take a massive amount of money, and that basically that amount of money isn't realistic, or certainly at the time was not at all realistic for us to ask for from Kickstarter. It felt like it was just if we were to ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars, it would just fail. It's absolutely what we thought. So that's why, ever since we had a playable version of the game, we'd been speaking with publishers and investors about providing the rest of the funding. So to get that, though, we have to prove that there's a market for the game and that people really, really want a game like this. And with the success of the Kickstarter, we absolutely did that.
Yeah, that is real good business sense, honestly. That also kind of goes into why your proof of concept was so strong for the Kickstarter. Is just like, you're not just presenting to the people who will want to play the game, but you're also presenting to other people to help supplement the funding. That's really smart.
Well,
Dang.
Yeah, we really hoped that people would see it that way. And it's perfectly understandable that people feel uneasy once money is involved with a project like this, especially with the reputation that Kickstarter has for games that end up like unfinished or just outright scams. We're a new studio in that environment, so like I tried personally very hard to be worthy of the community's trust and to prove that we're here to make a game that we deeply care about and not money.
No, I mean, it sounds like it worked, considering you smashed everything. So, with all the stretch goals, how did you determine the, price for each of those? Was it just based on, the same kind of, sort of lowballing to get, what you would basically need for it? Or was there, additional fancy math involved with, commission prices and that sort of thing?
It was actually all based around what we believed it would cost to kind of create those features. So we saw the initial goal as what it would take beyond what we already had to be able to provide something that was playable and that we could stand behind. The stretch goals were really just covering the cost of those assets so that when we got outside investment, we wouldn't need to add on the cost of those things for the investors as well. So things like breeding mechanics doesn't really add a whole lot of cost for us. We basically just have the 75,000 as the assets that are required for building a guild. So that's, I think, 15,000 over the original goal. So that goes to cover all the art assets that's needed for that. And then between 75 and 110, all of that kind of goes into creating 25 more kinfolk and then 25 more kinfolk until the Switch goal covers the cost of the Switch goal, and then from there to 50 more kinfolk covers 50 more kinfolk. And so these things all end up paying for themselves, where some things are more expensive than others, and so that way we wouldn't have to ask for that money from investors later.
Gotcha. Also smart. Man, a lot more goes into planning a Kickstarter than I initially thought, is what I'm learning.
We learned that as well.
Oh man, I bet. So we talked a little bit about this super cute Nyazen. Oh my god, it's adorable. Why did you choose to offer content collaboration options as backer rewards?
Well, I think the biggest reason is because we saw that there was like a demand for it more than anything else. It was still a tough choice to make because we try to be really careful about the stuff that we are adding to the game to keep the level of quality as high as we want it to be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's understandable. It is like your baby.
Yeah. But more than anything else, everyone was like, can we please create a kinfolk? So we absolutely had to do that.
Can you kin a kinfolk?
A lot of other Kickstarter projects had similar things where
Uh-huh.
you might be an NPC in the world or get your name on something.
Mhm.
So those seemed like the right call as well.
I'd agree. Honestly, it sounds like fun. They're cute. And a lot of people have a lot of like fun ideas. Like you always see like those fake Pokemon and fake Digimon, and they're always very interesting. So like, I feel like this is a great spot where people could be like, "Hey, like, I could have a thing actually in a game."
And honestly, that was our thought with like when we were looking for concept artists, that we started with that exact same like mindset. Like there are so many cool fake mon out there, or when there's a new Pokemon starter announced, right? People will create like what they think the evolutions could look like, and they always look so cool. So we were like, there's a ton of awesome monster concept artists out there. Why don't we just start talking to them and see if we can get anybody on board?
That's awesome. And now, like, the boring but necessary question. With everything going on in the world, supply chains and stuff, like, how confident are you about meeting your roadmap's milestones?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Like, I know it's hard. It's like, it's not a fun question, but, like, it's gotta be asked.
It's a fair question. And we won't, like, shy away from stuff like that. We tend to be pretty open.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a bit of soon TM, right?
Right.
And the virus, it makes things a little harder on us. We feel pretty confident still that we're going to be able to hit this like Q3 deadline for the alpha combat arena.
Mm-hmm.
With the virus, it's looking probably like later Q3 if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fair. That's fair, honestly.
Yeah. So that's something that, I mean, none of us could have really foreseen at the well, I guess it was February, so it was kind of picking up, but yeah, that was something that we definitely didn't account for. So that could end up delaying things a bit, but like I said, internally, it's still looking like we're going to be able to hit that.
Nice. So now we're going to talk about what is Kindred Fates. Fancy. So this is a question from, I believe, Brian and Rocky. I don't care because I'm a Nintendo main. But, like, why'd you prioritize the Switch over other platforms? Is it because it's fabulous? Because it's fabulous.
Absolutely is because it's fabulous. It's
Ha-ha!
fabulous and we had to.
I told you guys. Brian owes me $2 now.
Oh my god, Tegan.
Yes! You can't see it. I dabbed.
Yeah, I have a Switch. I love my Switch. And it's kind of like the perfect console for it, to me. Like, if I was going to put it on a console, it's the Switch. It's mobile, and there's a huge user base for it, so it felt like the right choice. Also, it was the most requested console, but that had little to do with it.
No, I get that. One thing I did want to ask, is there going to be crossplay between the Switch and the PC version?
It's a great question. We're going to try.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, you guys are obviously all in on the Switch. I wanted to ask if there's any, like, Switch-specific features that you guys have been thinking about? I don't know, something wonky though with Joy-Cons or anything?
We don't really have anything in mind for that at the moment. It's something that we've thought about a little bit, but just with the scope of the game being as big as it is already, our main goal is really just going to be, okay, how can we get this to run on Switch as best as possible? that'll be pretty challenging in and of itself. You're separate from, like, let's do some cool stuff with the Joy-Cons. Although that would be fun too. So we'll kind of have to see as we get more into development if we'll be able to do that.
For sure. I'm not mad at that. Okay, so this is kind of a lore thing. So Tegan, I apologize if I step on your toes a little bit.
Nah, it's cool. You go.
How has kinfolk being sentient creatures affect the world?
Well, even if I can't get very in-depth about the lore side of this, I could absolutely talk at length about how them being sentient has affected development.
Okay.
Because that's been incredibly impactful. As far as the lore, let's see. It definitely does change how we write the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fundamentally, actually. Usually when you think about a monster battling game, sentience is not really something that's in the picture for the monsters. Unless it's, like, I think Digimon. They're pretty well sentient in Digimon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the exception. So it really changes the kind of like trainer monster dynamic a lot. And the lore has had to be very carefully written to accommodate for that. And development on just about every feature that interacts with the monsters in like a general way has had to be created very carefully with that in mind as well.
Can you expand a bit on that? On like how it's affected development?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So when you introduce sentience into a monster capture game, especially with one that has sort of the fundamental law or pillar of design that we have of they can actually die, it gets really challenging really quick because you have a situation where they're sentient, but it's a monster catching game, so you need to catch them, which means that you need to battle them, probably, because it's a monster battling game. So they don't want to be caught, they're sentient, and they don't want to be caught so much to the point that they're willing to fight you. And because we have a rule or a design in our game where, you know, they can actually die, they're willing to even fight you to the death to not be caught. So how do you resolve that? And how do you make that something that makes sense within the lore and makes sense as a gameplay mechanic? So that's how we got into designing our quote-unquote capture mechanic. We call it that because people are more familiar with capturing monsters, but in our game, you're not really capturing them. You're forming bonds with them and forming friendships, and it's not something that you're actually forcing them into. Like, I formed a bond with you, and so I'll hang out with you, and I'm interested in your goal, and so I'll help you. But if you show that you're clearly, you know, irresponsible and incapable of doing your job, then I'm going to leave.
Can you, like, walk us through, like, an encounter?
Sure. So there's there's so many different encounters that could happen. I guess, like, your typical just kind of out roaming around the world, kind of encountering a monster thing. You might see them in the distance, at which point you could decide if you want to go near them or not. If you do, then you're risking them potentially being hostile. You probably don't know from a distance if they're hostile or not. They could just be an NPC.
Mm-hmm. Wild.
And then, yeah, they could be a shopkeeper. They could be a quest giver. You know, you don't really know until you go talk to them or whatever. So then once you get close enough, I don't know, assume that it's a hostile encounter. So you would enter combat then, although it isn't really like entering combat in a turn-based monster catching game where there's like a screen transition. It happens, you know, seamlessly like it would in any open world game. And yeah, at that point you can fight them and choose to go through the capture mechanic that you see in the Kickstarter. If you want to essentially save them and add them to your team or like recruit them, or you can fight them and there's something else that can happen. but I can't really get into that.
Okay, fair enough. Can you talk a little bit about permadeath and how it affects the kinfolk?
Oh, yeah.
Do, like, other kinfolk find out when you've accidentally killed your kinfolk companion? Are they mad at you?
Absolutely, they could be.
Oh, no!
It affects a lot of aspects of the game, but especially the relationships that we want to establish, or the bonds. The permadeath aspect, it's the kind of thing that could potentially lower the morale of a whole team if you're not able to save one of your party members. So your bond with them could go down. If your bond with your whole party could potentially go down if you lose a party member. It is permanent. There really is no way to get them back. And we feel like that's important. If we gave you an out aside from the flame, it would feel kind of cheap. Kind of like in a show or in a movie where they play it off like one of the characters is dead and they, get the emotional gut punch from the audience. And then 2 scenes later or something, they bring them back and it's like, oh, they were just hiding. They weren't in that explosion or whatever. It feels cheap at that point, so.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so I've been seeing a few things, especially on the Instagram, about how branching evolutions have been coming out, which is, just a wild concept given, like, the history of monster battling.
Uh-huh.
The only, I guess, other example I can really think of is Digimon. But can you talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Early on, when we were still designing the game in the very, very early phases, we talked about what it was that we really enjoyed from the monster battle genre. In Andrew's case, what had caused him to kind of fall out of playing those games in recent years. And one of the things was that they all just felt so similar. So we really wanted to add new elements or to take elements that were standard and expand on them. So we talked about things that had always been the same and how we could make those more interesting. And that's how we got to branching evolutions, was that from everything we had seen, evolutions were basically like a 1, 2, 3 kind of line, like we're used to in Pokemon. And Digimon was just about the only example that had things that were kind of like branching evolutions. So yeah, we wanted to give people choice with evolutions, and to make that choice meaningful, because giving people meaningful choice is one of the themes that we wanted to be in the game from the beginning and like kind of permeate through more than just like the narrative. And so the way that manifests as a game mechanic is in branching evolutions. You might catch one Auburn and choose to take him to an Ember, and then catch another and go to K-Knight. And they have very different play styles and different move pools.
Do they have like different personalities too?
Well, actually, their personality will remain the same through their different evolutions. It's not like they become a new individual or something.
Oh, got it. So it's like the Ember had like this personality, and when it evolves, it still has that personality. It's the same dude. It's just older.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Okay. So are these evolutions permanent, like in Pokemon?
They are, yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Oh no. You gotta match up your personality for your thing with the evolution that looks the best with that personality.
Oh, that happens all the time already. If you watch the Kickstarter trailer, there's a monster that the community has lovingly dubbed Salamurder.
Salamurder. Oh, I love him.
Yeah. So
that's my child.
Yeah. For example, if you were to maybe find one of these things in the wild and recruit it to your team, there's a higher chance that it will be kind of the more chaotic or more evil sort of personality type. But it is still possible that you could run into a Salamurder that is just a total sweetheart and is the most wholesome personality type ever, which we think is also, I don't know, just as fun, really. That there could be this, horribly scary monster, but they're not really that bad, They're just kind of misunderstood.
You're just misunderstood because they look like murderers.
Exactly. Just gotta get to know them.
Yeah, kill them with kindness instead. It's fine. I baked you cookies. They're full of peanut butter. You're allergic.
Oh no.
Look at that evil little murder lizard. I love him. I love him. He is also my favorite.
Yeah, he was one of the most fun concepts to make.
How has branching evolutions affected design on your end?
It's presented some interesting challenges. For example, we realized that we would be designing a lot more second or third evolutions than we would first evolutions. Yeah, so if you have a pool of, we're at 159 post Kickstarter, then, a handful, not really a handful, but, a small percentage of that 159 are first evolutions, and then a way higher percentage are like second evolutions, and then a good chunk are like third evolutions because, they branch out every time.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's probably the biggest impact that it has on design.
Okay. It's definitely a different shape. So, you'd want to, load up early, I guess, on the smaller critters, and then, deal with the branches later.
Kind of. We have different things that we're trying to achieve with different concepts. I know that's, the most vague thing I could have said, but bear with me.
It's fair. That's understandable.
Yeah. So, for example, we needed to get the whole Auburn line finished before the Kickstarter so that we could have graphics and stuff to show people.
Right.
So that one was just kind of okay, let's just get through the whole tree. And then there's others where it's okay, we need a flying type, but not just a flying type. We need one that is big enough that it can be mounted. Okay, cool. So out of all the ideas we have, what does that look like? Where can we put that in the list? Okay, cool. Now we have to do the same thing for something that you can ride in the water. Okay, cool. Now we need something to show people that we're going to have actually kind of sort of terrifying monsters and not just cute ones. Okay, cool. Let's put that in there. So it's more like that pre-Kickstarter, and now post-Kickstarter, we tend to design around specific concepts now that we have a roadmap for just how many monsters we're going to be creating and how many of each type and sort of what those trees look like. Now it's about just kind of having free reign and coming up with all these cool ideas and designing the concepts as they come.
Okay.
Is it one of those things where you look at something and you're I bet I could make a monster out of that? Or is it there are 3 boxes and you kind of reach into one and you're a bear and it moves objects with his mind and is orange. Okay, we're working with this now.
That's a great question, actually. It was a bit more like the latter in the beginning because we were still trying to kind of find the game's identity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there was a fair amount of okay, so it's going to be a bear, but it's going to have smoke around its neck and it'll do fire stuff. And it'll be the counterpart to the wolf because it starts as half bear, half puppy. So they have to go half wolf, half bear. But now we're steering away from animal plus concept and going more towards designing around a specific idea. It could be something okay, we want this monster to sort of embody the anxiety that you get when you're talking to a cashier and you haven't decided on what your order is. Things like that.
I need to see that monster. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. It could be all kinds of stuff. It could be the existential dread that you feel when you're lying in bed awake at night and you're man, I sure would love to get some sleep, but there's just a whole lot of that going on. So
I can't believe I'm going to get to meet my paralysis demon in a video game.
Right. Or just classic, kind of taking notes from OG Pokemon designs. They took a lot of inspiration from kaiju. And so we've been looking at a lot of more classic monster design and looking at how we can create our own stuff out of that. So yeah, it's a lot less, it's going to be a cat, but it's going to have I don't know, a construction hat. He's a builder. Who knows?
Builder Catmon. I love it.
And then he branch evolves into like an electric mon or like a cement mon or whatever.
He becomes either an electrician or a plumber.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's still interesting. Concept design stuff is always cool. I'm not good at it, so I think it's like magic. You've created magic.
It really is a lot of fun. It's challenging too when you know, like, okay, this is going to be a size 5 tree. That means it's got, 1 starter, and then it'll branch off into like 2, and then one of those will end, and the other one will have 2 more. And you're like, okay, cool. So we can come up with a starter for that pretty easily, but like filling out the rest of it, how do we want to sort of almost like ration out ideas, like to not throw everything into one concept and be done.
Mm-hmm.
That was harder at first, but now it's honestly more like, okay, because we're designing around things that are more like concepts or like abstract ideas, it's much easier to
figure out how those things evolve.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing?
and have different aspects of that all kind of like spread out from it.
Yeah, you have like more room to explore. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of like locking yourself down to like, it's this animal, but it does these other things, because then you kind of run out of augments, I guess, to put on your animal, and it feels sort of too same-ish.
I get that. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, there is one thing that has been haunting me since I've seen this Kickstarter. I'm unsure if like kinfolk basically evolve on their own and they always pick their own evolution, or outside of, other conditions like holding an item or knowing a particular move, the player decides whether or not how the kinfolk evolves. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So the kinfolk in the game make all the decisions for themselves.
Okay.
Including evolving. When they evolve, that is their choice. And we kind of tried to show that in the Kickstarter trailer. When there's that evolution scene, the camera kind of pans around behind Auburn, and now you're controlling Auburn, and you can see that like nobody else is there. It's just them. You're kind of inside their mind as they're making that decision.
Okay.
So do you then run the risk of like a bunch of the same critter going down the same evolution path and you never get to like see the other ones? Or are there ways that you can like influence that?
I guess I should clarify that a little bit more. Within the context of the story, or within the context of the game itself, they're making that decision. But you as the player, like the person holding the controller, you're choosing like which path they go down.
Oh, okay. Alrighty, so it's like you see in their mind and they're like, I could go this way, or I could go this way. And then like you are the Auburn making that decision.
Right. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean. Thank you so much, Tegan. And also you, Rob.
Mm-hmm. I language a little bit. I language just a little bit.
Just enough. You hit the roll. Let's leave evolution alone for a bit. I want to talk a bit about the typing and playstyles, because you guys had a revolutionary idea here.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to ask, what drove the idea to use creature types to differentiate playstyles and flattening the damage multipliers?
Yeah, so that came from wanting the game to be much more about skill than hard numbers. That was one of the things that we felt was really important about bringing it to an open world action game environment, is that it should be about skill.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just felt like having, a flat ×2 damage on super effective hits was like counterintuitive to that, because you're at an inherent numbers disadvantage if you're a water type against a grass type, or a fire type against a water type.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at ways to still keep the importance of types and to keep them meaningful, and that something that people can still kind of identify with, but not have it be just a numbers game. So with it being action combat, we knew that there were going to be a lot of different play styles. I mean, even in Pokemon or other turn-based monster catching games, there's still play styles, at least in like the competitive scene.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, we wanted to preserve that, and it felt like the natural response was to try and assign playstyles to the different types. It's an experiment. We don't know for sure if it's something that everyone's going to like. We know that it's very different. We know that from what we've played of it so far, it feels fun, but we're also really aware of the fact that there's a huge roster. There's a lot of designs that we would like to create that might not necessarily line up with that. And we don't want to limit ourselves in how we design things either. So it's something that we're trying, and we want to see how it works out. And we'll really be basing whether we kind of continue down that path and make adjustments until it feels right, or trying something else based on what the community's reaction is to it. Because it's more important to us than forcing a square peg into a round hole.
I get that. Okay, so I'm actually really interested in this change.
Yeah,
Mostly because I'm a big fan of, like, fighting games.
Yeah.
I like playing around with a lot of different types of characters. I do subscribe to, like, the East Coast School of Rushdown. Like, that's mostly what I like doing.
Good stuff.
But I do really appreciate, like, a good zoner. Like, as much as I hate Filipino Champ, I respect his playstyle. Like, I'm not going to front and act like zoners are trash. But there are a lot of people that, especially I've seen personally, that, like, play, like, say a game like Mortal Kombat, right? Like, a game that, like, a lot of people tend to play a lot more casually.
Right.
And they just have no concept of how to deal with zoning. One of the things that people were talking about, like when Smash started to become recognized as more of a fighting game,
right?
There were people that like couldn't interact with like more fighting game concepts,
right?
Playing footsies or like spacing or like respecting block strings and stuff like that. Do you expect something like that to be an obstacle when interacting with your player base with this type of play style?
I mean, I guess we anticipate that will be kind of an inevitability. The skill level is going to be, widely varying. But my plan, because I've always been a fan of competitive games, I'm a huge fan of Smash. I played a lot of League of Legends for a while. Mm-hmm. So I guess in any case, I would like to balance the game for competitive and not for the casual scene. Because I feel like you can always get better, and we can also kind of provide options to make things easier in the casual scene that don't reflect in the competitive scene. Actually, I thought that Smash had a fantastic solution for that, which was that they balance for competitive, and actually their philosophy for balancing is, I think, incredibly good in Ultimate, but I could talk about that later. But anyway, they have this system where you can kind of selectively nerf characters locally. So if you want to, you can have house rules where, if for whatever reason you've decided that like Ganondorf is ridiculously OP, you can tune his damage to be lower on just your machine. So I could see us doing something similar to that.
Okay, but back to playstyles just for a second.
Yeah, no, please do.
So I feel like I have a pretty strong understanding on the differences between like various playstyles, but I feel like some of them may like require a bit more nuance.
Sure.
I want to know if what I guess could be done or what is being done to like differentiate fighting styles that could appear same-ish. Like the idea of zoning and like stall.
Yes.
Both have like the objective of not being too close to your opponent and not risking taking damage. But, like, in practice, they are very different because zoners are creating obstacles while, like, stalls are, like, being the obstacle. And so I wanted to, like, ask a little bit about the work that's being done to, like, differentiate those playstyles to, say, the uninitiated.
Yeah. And, by the way, if you've got any follow-up questions about this part as I'm explaining it, feel free to like cut me off and ask questions.
For sure.
Yeah, so a lot of it comes down to, I guess, the move pool. Or, well, I guess your first question was that how do we differentiate that for players?
Mm-hmm.
And part of kind of the early stages of the game, of the single player, I would say,
Okay.
is introducing you to the idea that, hey, different types play differently, and kind of, showing that through gameplay. Like, we'll give you opportunities to fight different styles, and you'll sort of be able to experience for yourself how that is, and the game will kind of comment on that as well. So that's how it'll be delivered, I guess, through the game. In terms of how we actually go about making those differentiations, in the zoner versus stall example, I think we could probably both agree that the biggest difference there is like the damage output that one has versus the other.
Mm-hmm.
A wall typically has really low damage and will kind of whittle away at you and wear you down over time, or they're kind of stalling for one of their other teammates or just kind of waiting you out.
Right.
As opposed to a zoner, still wants to stay far away, but has way less health, and usually anyway, a lot less health.
And a lot more damage potential.
Exactly.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that, we're including or incorporating into the move pool and into the stats of the characters.
Okay.
So unlike fighting games where your moves are very static, if you play Scorpion in MK10, you know his moves, those don't change.
Right.
For the alpha, we have this concept of a loadout where you can select the moves that you want them to know and then go into battle with those. Even though you have a pool of moves to choose from, those moves will still reflect that playstyle, or at least the move pool will. With it being a pool, and with us not wanting to like railroad people into, this is a zoner, this is how you have to play this character, we still want to give people choice and the ability to experiment and kind of create new ways to play characters. So it's possible that you could take a character who is a fire type. Like, you could take Ember, for example, and, maybe because of some of the moves in his pool, you can play him as more of a support or more of a healer instead of a zoner, just by, the moves that you chose to take and potentially the stats that you chose to increase. He might not be as good at that role as another character.
Sure.
But it's a way that you could choose to play them.
Okay. I do like that idea, that like having like customizable moves. One thing that I might be concerned about, there's another fighting game that I am peripherally familiar with. I've played it a couple of times. It's called Million Arthur Arcana Blood. I'm not sure if you've played it because it's really like obscure.
Yeah, I can't say I've heard of it.
The game itself is really involved and there's a lot going on. But whenever you start a match, you have to pick like a point character and like 3 supports. And there are like something like 60 characters to choose from. Like, it's a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so like one of the things that's joked about the game is that half the game is just like picking your loadout.
Oh, yeah.
While I do like the idea of having the options available to you, I'm worried about it serving as like a delay to just like get into the game. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Totally understandable. So choosing your loadout, that'll all happen on the game's menu before you ever look for a match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you would kind of build your team beforehand, get it how you like it, search for a match, you go right into combat, play a couple rounds, and then, maybe you hop out and you decide you want to make some changes, then you jump back in.
Okay.
And that would only be for, like, the alpha. In the actual game, you'll learn moves as you level up.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Okay.
Are there ways other than leveling up that you can learn moves?
Absolutely. You can learn them through gaining bond levels with the protagonist. You can learn them. You could find them as like an item similar to like TMs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And there's also, we're thinking about potentially including like hidden moves.
Ooh.
Yeah, learned if like specific, more, hidden criteria are met.
Like you have a high bond level with your trainer and this particular monster, and you've already done like XYZ weird thing. Oh, man.
Yeah, don't you want Pokemon Limit Breaks, Tegan? Don't you want to, like, find the old piano and play the song from your childhood, and then, like, your kinfolk learns another move? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, right, yeah, there's a whole camping thing. Tell me everything you can about camping. I want to know.
Absolutely. So the camping at its like conception was we need a place to like save the game and save your location so that when things go sideways, you can come back here and you don't have to trek all the way across the world again to get back to whatever it was you were doing. So that's kind of its primary function, is to act as a save point. On top of that, there's a lot of things that you can do at camp. You can cook food, which it serves a similar role to, like, I guess the food in Breath of the Wild, in that it can heal you, it could potentially give you small buffs, and things like that. You can interact with your kinfolk there by like playing little mini games, which can do things like potentially raise their stats, like their EV values.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk with them, and they might give you little side quests to go on. And if you go on those side quests, then it might raise your bond level with them, or you might get a item as a reward. So there's all kinds of little activities that you can do at a campsite to like interact with the kinfolk too.
So will like the player be like carrying their own like camping set, or will they just like happen upon like an abandoned like campfire and then just like set up their tent there? Like,
yeah,
I guess
go
ahead.
They'll carry it with them, so you can kind of put it down wherever you want.
Okay. About this cooking, like, is it going to be, or I don't know if I could say that much, but will there be kind of like recipes to collect, or like will there be like a mini game built into like the cooking thing?
Yeah, you can find recipes throughout the game. You can buy recipes from shops, or just buy the food from restaurants or stalls.
Sick. I actually love cooking. I cook a lot. So
yeah, Tori, one of the game's writers, Tori loves cooking as well. She's a huge fan of the cooking in Breath of the Wild, so we had to do something kind of in that vein.
I'm all the way about it.
I wish I could cook as well as Link does in Breath of the Wild.
5 seconds, a happy tune, and some super basic ingredients, and you get something that looks delicious.
Right? I wish that, like, when I cooked a meal, it would tell me, like, you did a good job on this, or, like, this is a bad one. Really wish that was, like, a built-in feature of cooking.
Yeah.
Just told you did a good job. Oh, that's actually great. I love that. Okay, so I want to learn more about these kinfolk interactions, because you told us that in addition to, having potential bond conversations, it could also trigger side quests and stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we want your conversations and interactions with the kinfolk to feel more meaningful than just like, I don't know, when you talk to an NPC over and over and they just say the same thing over and over. We want it to feel like you are kind of getting to know this character and become a friend with them. So they have lives, before they join your team. So they could potentially have things going on there that they would like help with. Random examples, like my kite's stuck in a tree, right? And you could go like help them get their kite down, or maybe they have a friend who like went missing and you could like help them find their friend. Things like that you could go do and help them out.
Okay. And can you shed a bit of light on what kind of goals your team has for developing the kinfolk bonding system?
Yeah. So we want that system to be something that really promotes the permadeath, as kind of backwards as that might sound. Because permadeath is such a scary thing for a lot of players, we want to make that a meaningful emotional experience instead of just, this sucks, I lost this thing that I put all this time into. And so the bonding mechanic makes that relationship more tangible by letting you do things like, okay, now maybe they follow behind you in the world. If they're a creature that's big enough that they could be mounted, then now you can mount them, and now you have a flyer, you have something that you can surf on. They'll live longer if they are reduced to the blue flame, they'll hang on a little bit longer for you. So things like that. So that way, if they do die, it feels more like there was a story there than just, I lost my data.
I get that. Okay.
It's respectable, honestly.
Well, thanks. That'll be represented in the conversations that you have with them too, and things like the memorial.
There's gonna be a memorial?
Yeah, I could talk about that too.
Tell Tegan about the memorial.
Oh man.
Can I put flowers on their little grave?
Oh, you can.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. So, yeah, anytime that one of your party members dies, you can go and visit a place in the game called the Memorial. It'll be a location that is somewhere close to the player's home in their hometown. And basically you can go there, place a candle at the memorial for them, and that candle will persist for the entire game. Then you'll have kind of a menu that you can go through, and it'll show you all of your lost companions and information on them. It'll have their picture, it'll have their nickname if they had one, the day you met them, the day they died, potentially even what their favorite food was, all that sort of stuff. So it's a place that you can go and kind of like pay respects and...
Oh no. That's too cute.
The ballads for my fallen kinfolk.
Yeah.
Sad. This is an insensitive question. Are there some kinfolk you can only get by killing another kinfolk?
I don't think it's a terribly
Okay, good.
question considering the nature of the game. TBD?
Oh boy, oh no. Oh no.
Tegan, you gotta find a kinfolk that'll be a worthy sacrifice for the game-busted kinfolk.
They're my friends, Rocky. I can't kill them.
That makes it a better
purpose.
Sacrifice.
The phrase that I was taught as a DM is, you don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. Oh no. I'm gonna cry.
Okay, before Tegan starts crying, let's move on to a lighter topic. Players will get a base, like a home, which is, the millennial dream. I'd love to own a home someday. But you will also be able to customize both your own appearance and the appearance of your home with clothing and furniture. Does that point to ongoing content after release?
Potentially. We definitely do have ideas for ongoing content after release. We're not totally sure what those look like specifically yet.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of depends on just how the development for the next 3 years goes.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the home customization should be pretty fun. There's a lot of cool things we can do with that.
One thing that did stick out to me on the Kickstarter that I want to ask about was the inclusion of body types as part of character customization. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Sure. So the goal right now is that for every NPC body type that you see, your player character should be able to have the same body type. So we're probably not going to do like body sliders like a lot of games do.
Okay.
It'll probably be preset options that you can select between in a list. There'll still be a lot of them. I have a bit of a reputation among my friends that I'll spend like 2 hours sitting in character customization. It's something that I'm pretty fond of and will definitely take good care of. So you can expect like, lots of hair options, lots of color customization. We'll get fairly detailed with it. You can, select your nose and your eye shape and things like that. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, I know that you were trying to skirt the edge a bit earlier, but I want to just ask, are there any lore or are there any stories that you can talk about with us?
Man, any lore or stories that we can talk about?
We put down a couple of ideas, like, the kinfolk and, like, how they are, like, sentient spirits and potential familiars versus, like, other possible fauna in the wild. There was some mention of the fog in the Kickstarter. Any details about that would be great.
Yeah.
And I know that you have some legendary kinfolk in the works, and anything you could tell us about those would also be really appreciated.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about I can say a little bit on each of those things.
Okay.
So I guess for the legendary kinfolk, you can expect within the lore of the game that they will be more impactful than what you're typically used to legendaries in a monster battle game being. Yeah, we really want to make them feel like we believe a legendary ought to. So that's our goal with those.
Okay.
With the fog, I can say that there's this concept of restlessness that comes with kinfolk. A kinfolk does not age the same way that humans do. They can potentially live forever. And with that comes kind of a trade-off, in that you can live forever, but eventually, the longer that you continue to exist, the more likely it is that you could become restless. And there's a couple of different things that can kind of cause that or trigger that, but one of them in more recent times is this fog, and it's becoming more and more of a problem. So that's something that the story of the game will deal with.
Tegan?
Don't like that. don't like that.
Yeah.
Tegan, you have any lore questions you want to poke Rob with?
I mean, I have many lore questions, but I feel like I'm not going to get any answers.
You should ask them anyways.
So does, like, each region have its own unique lore, or is it more, like, tied to the beasts themselves?
I would say that each region will definitely have lore, or at the very least, its own sort of cultural identity that's tied to it, or with that cultural identity comes lore for that region.
Mm-hmm.
But the monsters themselves absolutely do, especially the legendaries, influence the lore of that particular game.
Are there only a certain amount of legendaries you can get in each game? Or can you get one of each legendary kinfolk in the game?
That is something that we'll probably know as we get further into development. TBD.
If I get a legendary kinfolk and I don't like its lore, can I get a different one? If I get the one that's like, this is the mean one, you got the mean kinfolk, because you're an asshole, can I get a different one?
Well, there's always New Game Plus.
Ooh. New Game Plus, you say?
Yep. So after you complete the game's main story, you'll have the option to basically start over from a very, very early point in the game's story with nothing but your current party. And yeah, you can play through the game over at a higher difficulty. With that comes a couple of benefits.
I'm sure also some issues. Some caveats, some TBD.
I mean, I'm down. I think one of my favorite things about Pokemon Gold was that, like, once I finished Johto, I could go back and fight Kanto, but, like, worse. Like, that was dope.
Yep. Yeah, this will be, so you can, and this is something that I think we talked about it in the Kickstarter, but I don't remember exactly. In any case, when you replay the game in, like, New Game Plus or New Game Plus 2 or Plus 7 or however high you go, every step up, there's a bunch of things that will become more common. So the difficulty gets harder, but things that are rare get a little bit less rare.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you're someone who really enjoys shiny hunting, then maybe it would behoove you to...
Wait, there's shinies?
There are shinies.
Do the shiny kinfolk have different lore than the regular kinfolk?
They do, yeah.
Dang it! I'm just gonna... Does each of your New Game Pluses get, like, another plus next to it? And it just goes on and on and on in your save game?
Kind of. It'll be like New Game Plus and then New Game Plus 2 and then New Game Plus 3.
Oh, okay. Cool. So that way I can tell, like, oh, I've been playing this one, like, a bunch of times. It's not like it's... These are both New Game Plus runs, but they're different.
Right, yeah.
Shoot. Okay. Well, dang it. I'm gonna have to collect all the things, aren't I?
I mean, probably, yeah.
It's gonna be 2,000 hours.
Okay, let's move on a little bit. Rob, what can you tell us about guilds?
Yeah, so guilds are basically like a local militia in a given town.
Right.
The closest thing that we can kind of equate it to in other monster battle games is gyms, but it's almost like a misrepresentation. In other monster battle games, you need to go to all the gyms and you collect badges, and with the ultimate goal of going to the really big gym, and you defeat the hardest, greatest, best trainers in all the land and become the best. Whereas in this, again, they're more like local militia, and they're in charge of protecting the town from, well, we can't really say. But suffice to say, you can join them, and you gain the benefits of being a guild member. One of the things that comes with that is access to the recruitment mechanic. There's like new side quests that would open up to you once you become a member of a guild. And of course there's, lots of different guilds in different towns throughout the game. None of them really required that you join them to finish the main story, but it's something that you can choose to do in the single player, or you can create a guild for the multiplayer and have your own personal guild, as opposed to one of the in-game guilds, if that makes sense.
Okay. At the risk of inviting other comparisons, i.e. Skyrim, Fallout, Dark Souls, actually?
Sure.
Can you talk a bit about what inter-guild relations would be like?
What do you mean by inter-guild relations?
So, there are multiple guilds, in the game, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
And they are generally represented by, different towns, or they are represented in different towns.
Uh-huh.
Are there any situations in which a guild from one town would interact with a guild with another town?
You don't know.
Can I join multiple guilds? Can I join all the guilds? Or do I have to do a different one in each, New Game Plus version?
Oh, no, you could become a member of all the guilds if you want to. Have your membership card for each one.
Carry them around with me. You get one of those bifold wallets that's got all the little the picture thing in it, and you just accordion out all your guild card memberships. Yes, it's in here somewhere.
Right.
Because one of the things, two things that I was thinking about. One was that maybe there's a possibility that not all the guilds get along, for whatever reason. Let's say you end up being a member of of two guilds, and they happen to not like each other because 5 years ago one of them lost a grain shipment and never apologized for it or whatever, some nonsense.
Right. Uh-huh.
But also, would there be, I guess, opportunities to collaborate with multiple guilds for certain things? But I probably still don't know. But I'm just spinning out here.
Those are all great ideas. Definitely stuff that we have kind of going on in the back of our minds.
For sure. Can you tell us a little bit about any other recruitable NPCs, in guilds, I guess?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so that is one of the benefits that you could get from a guild is, again, to make comparisons to Skyrim or Fallout. In the same way that you could kind of pick up a companion from joining, the Thieves Guild, you could have access to a special companion by joining a guild in our game too.
Neat. Can you expand on what you all expect recruiting platoon members and kinfolk look like?
So in practice, it's very, very similar to the breeding mechanics in other games. Just the lore is different. So mechanically the same, but the subject matter very, very different. Because that whole sentience thing, that'll get you.
Right. Right. Jeez.
They got opinions, man. They like different foods.
Right. You can get a notification while you're out in the world that they have found a new potential recruit, and they'll ask you if they'll give you a summary of them real quick, and then you can decide if you would like to recruit them or not, and then they'll kind of start like training them back at the guild headquarters, and then you could add them to your team next time you visit.
Okay, and I'm not sure about this question, given what we've talked about, but in the, like, create your own guild for, like, multiplayer, are there plans to support user-generated content?
Like mods?
I guess it would be specifically mods, since there aren't, like, bespoke, like, creation stuff, like designing clothes and whatnot.
Yeah. For mods, we have to be kind of careful, because, you know, we don't want to, like, invite cheating into the multiplayer.
Right.
Anytime you've got mods, that's always kind of a thing you have to watch out for.
It's a hop and a skip away.
Yeah. So probably in the online stuff, we would probably leave mods out of that. But I am a big fan of, I've modded so much Skyrim. Oh man, I've modded Skyrim more than I've played Skyrim.
I hear that.
Yeah. And also, you know, mods are sort of an inevitability for any community that decides that they want them. They'll make it happen. I think, though, that the potential for modded kinfolk, user-created modded kinfolk, is really exciting to me. We had all of these awesome submissions for the cat contest, and unfortunately we can't add them all. I wish we could, but we can't. But maybe the community can. Maybe you can get a mod for some of the contest winners or community choices.
And speaking closer to the online part of the game, what do you envision for the online experience?
Yeah, so there's the PvP part of it and the, I guess, co-op side of it, and then trading. So you could open your game up to co-op and have a friend join you, and you would be able to play through the story the same way that you normally would in single player. Game's difficulty or scaling will be adjusted a little bit to account for there being two people, but otherwise, yeah, you're playing through the game, but with a friend. Then there's PvP. We're initially just going to roll out the 1v1 game mode for the alpha.
Right.
But we plan to have 1v1s and 2v2s up and running by the beta sometime next year. Then, by the time the full game is released, we'll have the 1v1s, 2v2s, competitive, so you'll have ranked matches, which is really, in a lot of games, for me, the only thing that kind of keeps me playing. So I'm a huge fan of like online competitive game modes. So we'll definitely have that. And then there's trading, which will function, you know, pretty much the same way that people expect it to. Apart from that, I guess there's raids, which are kind of like co-op, except it's not the story. So you'll be able to go to a location in the game, choose to run that dungeon as a raid. You'll be able to either invite friends to join you for that, or open it up to just anyone who's also looking for a raid to do. And that will be some of the most difficult content that the game has to offer.
Okay, so raiding, personally to me, means a handful of different things.
Oh, sure.
Like, for example, raids can mean just, like, you know, really big expert-level boss fights.
Yeah.
Very much like, you know, like how Gigantamax is playing out in Pokemon. But there's also, you know, like the dungeon crawling, like hack and slash type of thing where you're just like in a gauntlet, just fighting hordes of enemies. But like there's better stuff and there's better enemies. But there's also something that's a bit more inclusive than that. That's kind of like straight up dungeon crawler. Like you're exploring a space that has like puzzles and tricks. And there is combat that like culminates in a boss fight.
Right.
I want to like gauge where you guys are landing on that spectrum.
Yeah, it's a great question, really, because like you were saying, raids cover a wide spectrum of different experiences across different games.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't talk too much on this just yet. It's something that's still like heavily in development, but I can talk about the types of raids that the team really enjoys, and you can expect that we're always going to try and incorporate the things that we've enjoyed in other games into ours.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a huge fan of the first raid in the first Destiny game, if anybody remembers that.
Okay.
It's called Vault of Glass.
Yes.
I thought it was really good how you didn't have like 50 people that were all crammed in there fighting stuff together, but you had to be kind of careful about who you were bringing with you,
Mm-hmm.
and that you had like the right skill set for what it was you were trying to do. There was combat, but there were kind of platforming or kind of puzzle sort of things.
There were some pretty good puzzles in that first Destiny raid.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of that kind of stuff. And then I've been a fan of like boss rush game modes and like multi-stage boss fights and things like that. So those are always a lot of fun too.
Mm.
Yeah, you also mentioned, it kind of sounded like a gauntlet of like, okay, I'm sitting in an arena and there's going to be waves of enemies.
Right.
This is like way left field. But my dad and brother and I have played just nonsensical hours of Nazi zombies over the years, which is, of course, a very wave-based game. So I'm a big fan of that kind of thing, too.
Okay. I do want to touch a little bit on, I guess, like the shape of co-op gameplay before we head over to our listener questions.
Sure.
Co-op gameplay, from what you described so far, is like you'll be able to play the standard campaign with a friend. Later, there will also be, like PvP 2v2s and this raid content that is still taking shape. Is there anything else that you could tell us about it?
I guess we can talk a little bit about how it could really change how you tackle the single-player side of the game.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that a 2v2 game mode in PvP, really in any fighting game,
right,
drastically changes how that fight plays out. The same can really be said for the co-op in the single-player side of the game.
Okay.
So you can expect the encounters to change based on, if you're playing single-player or co-op.
That's actually pretty much most of what I could actually hope for. Like, I definitely don't just want to like raffle stomp just because I have a friend playing with me.
Right.
So we'll go into our listener questions. The Hennessy on Twitter writes, so as you may know, one of the things players care about most when it comes to Pokemon-style monster battlers, as well as open-world MMOs, is the post-story or endgame content. My question is two parts.
Yeah.
Firstly, what are your thoughts on endgame content? And do you have plans to continually update the game with high-level endgame content after launch?
Yeah, that's a great question. This kind of falls into one of those things that when we were first designing the game, we wanted to improve on aspects of the monster battling genre. Felt like the endgame content in a lot of ways was really lacking in the genre. You, of course, had the whole roster of monsters to still go out and collect. But aside from that, there wasn't really much to do, or there wasn't much that made that feel as meaningful, kind of like going through the story did.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely want to put an emphasis on there being a game after the game. So New Game Plus is one of the ways that we're doing that, but it isn't the only way. There's a lot of things that we're doing with New Game Plus that will help it to feel more interesting than just replaying the same story over and over and over. And, without kind of giving things away. So one of the things I try to keep in mind is that we have a 3-year like dev schedule ahead of us. Mm-hmm. So, we have to sort of spread this information over the course of 3 years. But I don't know, Battle Islands were pretty cool, right?
I heard about those. Those are pretty neat.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind. Dreaming of a battle island. Some Animal Crossing meets Pokemon battlers. Let's do it. Okay, and we have another question, a listener question. In this case, I think our listener was Tegan.
The listener was Tegan. Tegan has a good question.
Tegan, ask your question. Go ahead.
How has directing video games changed how you play video games?
Oh, man. This is a brand new question that I've never heard before. But already, I think it's phenomenal. It changes it a lot when you kind of choose to turn it on. I was worried when I first started developing games a lot, when I was really doing it every day for all day, that I wouldn't be able to go back to playing video games and it feel the same way. But it's more like a switch where if you just want to chill out and kind of enjoy a game for the sake of enjoying a game, it's basically the same, and that's great. But when you choose to look at it from the perspective of someone who's spent hours and hours and hours, days, weeks, months, over a year at this point, or really years on other games too, it's very different. It's so much easier to be really nitpicky on things that you wouldn't at all have been nitpicky on before. But it's also really cool to see things that you never would have appreciated before, which is really cool too. Things like UI. You don't really think about UI too much, but then when you're paying attention to the UI because you're okay, what am I going to do with the UI for my game in this part? And you see some really slick UI animation and it's got this really crispy VFX. It's wow, that was awesome. Maybe there's a VFX on a character in a game and you're wow, I have no idea how they did that. That looks so cool. That kind of stuff is really awesome.
I feel that. New stuff sticks out.
Yeah, but it doesn't always stick out. It just sticks out when you start looking for it and then you start seeing things that you really wouldn't have otherwise.
And then you're that's not a thing I would have considered in that way.
Exactly. I think VFX have been some of the things that have stood out to me the most in that way because we spent a fair amount of time trying to put VFX together ourselves and as developers learn how to do that, but it's something we just realized we absolutely need artists for. And yeah, learning how to build those and how difficult it is to build something like a smoke VFX that looks the way that you wanted it to. For example, K-Knight in our game, he's the wolf that's got the clouds of smoke coming off of him.
Mm-hmm.
In the Kickstarter trailer, just went ahead and used a solid mesh for that. Didn't worry about the VFX because we had actually spent probably more time and money and effort and stress and blood and sweat and tears on that stupid smoke VFX. Any other thing in the game.
And you're just we'll fix it later.
Pretty much. It was we had tried so many different solutions and none of them were at the level of quality that we were looking for. They just did not look right. We hired, multiple different VFX artists who were all, very talented and did fine. It just wasn't what it needed to be. And it turns out it's just an incredibly difficult effect to make. Especially when, the best reference that you have is really, your 2D concept art stuff, and you can explain how it's supposed to move and the artist can understand, what it is that you're looking for, but without kind of a proof of concept effect or just how to build that, it's incredibly challenging. So now when we do see some really gorgeous smoke VFX, it's oh man, that's amazing. I have to wonder how they did that.
Yeah.
To the point where I've even paused animated shows and I will rewind and watch it over and over to appreciate the smoke. I kid you not.
I believe it.
I believe it too. Oh man. The VFX smoke effect is Rob Craven's white whale. I love it.
If you have mastered VFX smoke,
Please contact Skymill Studios.
I want to know your location, yes.
Drop your stuff below the Twitter so we can see it. And we can all appreciate it together.
Honestly, if anyone listening is able to make a smoke VFX that looks just like the one in K-Knight's 2D concept, and you can provide a reference that shows that yours moves in Unity like that, we will pay you.
Come on, guys, get paid. Figure it out.
Real money.
Yeah, we want to know. We will find you.
Okay, that's all of our questions. Is there's anything you want to say, address the audience before we wrap up, Rob?
Yeah. So I guess in the meantime, I would say you guys can look forward to the upcoming music contest. We'll be talking more about that in the next couple days. We'll be talking about the alpha and giving a little more detail on how that's coming along so far. So look forward to playing that soon. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, everyone, this is our show. It's called Impossible Coin. We do it every week. We don't always have interviews, but we do highlight them when we do. We want to thank Rob Cravens of Skymill Studios for visiting with us, and we implore you to take a look into their game, Kindred Fates.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. For anyone, well, everyone knows, this podcast is found wherever podcasts are found. We focus our stuff on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. We appreciate reviews whenever you can. So there's music at the beginning and end of this podcast. It's produced by our friend Big Soch. You can find him on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/BigSochNJ or on Twitter at Hillary_Swank. Our logo and t-shirt were designed by Lauren Moran. You can find her on Twitter at Lauren Moran and consider donating to her Patreon. Speaking of Patreons, we have one too. So if you want to get a hold of some exclusive content, like our show notes, but also bonus episodes focusing on, pop culture, anime, wrestling, and, the fabled watch-alongs, you can go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/Impossible Coin Podcast. We are on social media. Brian's usually on Facebook and Patreon. I'm on Twitter. Tegan's on Tumblr. It's all Impossible Coin, no spaces or dashes or anything weird like that. But that's us. That's the show.
And then Brian says peace, but he's not here.
Right.
So do you want to say something first, Rob?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you get the first sign off.
Oh, man. Okay, then thanks so much for having me, and see you guys soon.
Bye!